All right, here's the deal. If you watched my video for number 16, because you got it wrong, and you're watching this video, you kind of got it wrong probably for the same basic strategy reason. This is another case where if we're really good at predicting the question, we can get our brain on the right track here. Now, just looking at these choices, it seems like we're just picking the one that sounds best, right? That's kind of the same words, different order, maybe one sounds better than another. There's no real rule here, it would seem, that we need to consider. But if we look at the sentence, we should notice something that hopefully triggers us to think about rules. What is the structure of this sentence? Many of the moves in the dance, such as jumps, rolls, and kicks, are similar to blah, blah, blah. Are similar to. That is code that we are making a comparison. And on the SAT, when we make comparisons, they need to be symmetrical, meaning that we need to make sure we're comparing two things that are comparable, that are similar kinds of things. So we have to ask ourselves questions about what is the symmetry of this sentence, what are we trying to talk about? Now, it may sound okay to us, but that doesn't matter. We need to follow the rules here. So let's think about what's being compared. They're talking about the moves, right? They list a few of them, but they're comparing moves, right? Moves in the dance to what? Probably other moves, right? So we're supposed to compare moves to moves, but we're not really doing that. Instead, we're comparing the moves to martial arts and acrobatics. What we are doing is kind of breaking a rule of comparisons, and it may seem obvious what we're trying to say here. But technically, choice A is not saying it. It's comparing moves. It's comparing something like a jump to a martial art like karate. Jumps and karate are not the same. We could compare a jump to a jump or a kick to a kick, but we can't compare a kick to an entire branch of martial arts. Different things. So we need a choice that does that. Now, B is longer, but it's still talking about the disciplines. It's still talking about the big picture of martial arts and acrobatics. That's not good. Now, C is changing it slightly, but instead of comparing it to like the discipline, it's just comparing it to the people, right? The artists and the acrobats. So again, we don't want to compare a kick to a person. That's not right. It's not a good comparison. What we want to do is compare the kicks and the jumps in the dance to the kicks and the jumps in martial arts. So the moves in martial arts and acrobatics. And we're allowed to do what D does. We're allowed to refer to the moves using a pronoun. The key is the pronoun stands for moves, which means that now we have a symmetrical comparison. We're comparing moves to moves, and that's okay. That's good. That's different from comparing moves to, karate, martial arts? We'll just call it that. That's bad. So this is tricky. It's tricky because most of the time you won't even notice that there's a problem because your brain is too smart for its own good. You read the sentence and you know what they're trying to say. So your brain does not sense a problem. That's why we need to think of this not as like, what's the best sounding way to say everything, but is that this is a test with certain rules. And the better we can get at predicting the question, the better we'll be at knowing which set of rules we need to follow, because different question types use different rules. When we know we're about grammar, it doesn't matter what sounds good. We have to trust a rule instead, and here we are. And once we did that, this question became kind of easy, but it's hard if we're not thinking along those lines, because I just don't think that D sounds particularly good. So I don't know that I would get that answer if I was just listening to the best version of the sentence. Comparisons on the SAT should absolutely trigger your brain to be thinking in terms of grammar rules, not in terms of what sounds best.